Okay, we're still talking about hibernation this week. You guys tell me what that means. If an animal hibernates, what do? They sleep all winter long. That's right. That's right. I have a hibernation song on your tablet I want you to watch today. Who can think of an animal that we've learned about that hibernates? Can you think of one? We've talked about bears hibernating, haven't we? And what were the insects that have the red shells and the black spots, and we learned that they like to stay in a group to hibernate? Ladybugs, remember that? Yep. And then we learned about snakes hibernate. Where do they like to sleep? Some of them sleep under what? Under rocks, okay? What is the animal that hibernates that likes to sleep upside down and they take their wings and they wrap it around themselves? Which one was that? Bats, okay, right. Let's see, can you think of another one? What about groundhogs? We learned about those. They hibernate, don't they? Yes. And we read a book yesterday. It had a chipmunk in it, and we learned that chipmunks hibernate. And where do they hibernate? They go in a what? They go in a burrow under the ground. Remember, that hole is called a burrow. That's right. Okay, so today I have another book about hibernation. It's called All About Hibernation. So it also has real pictures in it. So I want you to really look at the pictures while I'm reading the words to you. They've got some great pictures in here. And let's see if we can learn about anything new that we haven't already talked about hibernation. Which animal's on the front cover? What is that? That's a bear, isn't it? And we know he hibernates. Let's see, this book is written by Tori Casara. She is the author. So what was her job? To write the story, to write the words in the book to tell us about hibernation, right? All right, here's our title page. All About Hibernation. Okay, here we go. When winter weather settles in, many animals migrate to warmer places. Other animals stay put and hibernate to get through the cold season of winter. Now that's another word that I think Mrs. Spots and Mrs. Drake talked to you about a little bit in the fall. Migrate. Remember that word? If an animal migrates, that means they find a warmer place to live during winter. They go away. So this is a picture of birds. I think maybe these are geese. And it gets very cold in winter, and they don't like to stay in the cold, and they don't hibernate. So what they do to protect themselves in winter is to fly to a new place to live that's warmer. And they stay there until the cold weather's over. Then they'll come back. That's called migrate, okay? All right, here we go. Animals that hibernate find a safe place to stay, like in a burrow or a cave, and fall into a deep sleep. They stay in that shelter until the weather gets warm again. You know what? Look at this picture. That is a great picture of the chipmunk that we read about yesterday in his burrow. Do you see him? He is under the ground. He's dug out a little burrow, a little hole, and he's going to stay there. And he's not going to come out until the weather gets warmer. He's going to hibernate. Pretty cool, isn't it? During hibernation, animals do not eat very often, and some do not wake up to eat at all. All animals that hibernate eat lots of foods beforehand. This way, they do not have to find food or drink during the winter. They can sleep through the entire season. So that's something we've talked about. They gather food up in the fall, and they eat a lot, and they store up their food. That way, when it comes to the time for them to hibernate, they don't have to get up. They can sleep the whole time without getting hungry. Look at this animal. Which animal is that? That's a squirrel, isn't it? And do you see what the squirrels do? Remember we learned about that? They gather their nuts and seeds, and he's holding it in his hands there. He's preparing for winter. All right, ooh, look at this picture. Do you know what that is? Let's read and find out. The food the animals eat lets them store lots of fat. The thick layer of extra fat helps keep the animals warm while they sleep. It also protects their organs inside their body, like their brain, by keeping them from getting too cold, which could stop them from working. So it's very important that they eat a lot, so they get a lot of fat built up on their body to keep them warm. That's one way they stay safe in the winter. Ooh, we read about this. That's a frog. Where did we learn he hibernates in the what? In the mud. Cold-blooded animals such as frogs and snakes bury themselves in the ground before they hibernate. The earth keeps them warm and safe until spring. So that, remember, they use that mud kind of like a blanket to cover their bodies, to keep their bodies warm. Some fish, such as Antarctic cod, hibernate in the winter. The fish's hearts slow down and they rest on the bottom of the floor until spring returns. They go down all the way to the bottom of the water and they sleep on the bottom of the floor in the lake or the pond or the ocean, and that keeps them warm enough that they can hibernate, and then they'll come back in the spring to the top. Okay, we've been talking about these animals. Can you see? What are they? Bats. And remember, they sleep in groups. Bats are true hibernators. That means they first must find a shelter that stays above freezing temperatures all winter. A cave where hibernating animals gather is called a hibernaculum. That's a big word. So they find a cave and then they all gather up and then they hibernate. They do not get up. They do not wake up. All right, so this is something that happens to some animals. They kind of go to sleep. It's like they take a little nap. They don't go all the way into a deep sleep like the bears do, but they sleep long enough in order to survive and to stay warm. That's something new we haven't talked about, isn't it? After several weeks of hibernation, the animals wake up very slowly. The animals will then stay active. That means they'll start hunting for food, moving around, and sleeping like normal until the next winter, when it will be time for them to hibernate once again. And here's some words that we've learned. Let's look at them. A burrow. Remember what a burrow is? A burrow is a hole in the ground that some animals use for protection. A burrow. Let's see. We know what hibernate means. That means to what? Sleep all winter long. Yep. And we just talked about migrate. Remember that first page showed the birds? What does migrate mean? Migrate means they're going to find a warmer place to stay during winter. Yep, they don't sleep. They just find a new home to live in during winter. All right. And let's see. I think that's it. We've learned all those other ones. So what did you think all about hibernation? Did you learn something new? We can always learn something new when we read books, can't we? So watch that other video today, and I want you to think about, what would you do if you hibernated? Do you think you could hibernate in the winter? Do you think you could sleep all winter long without waking up to get something to eat? I don't know. I don't know. We don't hibernate, do we? But there's a lot of animals that do, and that's one way that they keep their bodies safe during winter so they don't get too cold. So, all right. Thank you guys for listening to my book today. I want you to have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.